Hey guys, Steve O'Connor. I'm back with you. You're not going to believe the video that I'm about to put on tonight. I mean, this stuff is just getting out of control. So I'm going to show you something of these idiots on the street that are causing major disruptions, complete disruption, not only to the city, but ICE, everything stopping the immigration guys from doing their job. This stuff has gotten out of control. It's gotten crazy. You just start to watch some of this hysteria. And by the way, it's not protesting. This is absolutely devolved into a complete riot. Watch this.
Hey, 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 knock it off! Stop! Hey, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Okay, let's just pause right there. Already, you have somebody, you could see that that car had a broken window. These people that are on the street are in complete mass hysteria over ICE. You realize they are they are arresting the worst of the worst in this world. ICE is not typically going after some person who is just here and simply is here illegally, maybe working a job, maybe has a house and a family. It's not typically that. Those guys are the ones that are going to go to hearings, they're going to be deported legally, or they're going to be allowed to remain, extensions of visas, maybe pay fines. That's all the other stuff. ICE is going after, and I want to get this straight for a lot of you people out there, you liberal, stupid idiots. Do you not realize that they are clearing the streets of the highest criminal offenders? People who are child rapists, illegals that are here committing sex crimes, drug trafficking. A lot of them are Tren de Aragua, Mexican mafia, some of the worst offenders. These people would kill you just as soon look at you. You don't even realize how many of these bad people that they're clearing in the street. Now, the lady being dragged out of her car is plain and simply because she failed to comply. ICE is there doing an operation. They obviously have reason to be there. They have lawful reason to be there, and they are sanctioned by law to be able to do so, or excuse me, approved by law to be able to do so. When they're there, they are there to arrest somebody who is dangerous. They do not need the distractions of a bunch of idiots filling the street with their whistles. Like, I thought those used to be called a rape whistle. Now you have all these F-tards that are out there going crazy on the street, and they're sitting there with their whistles going nuts. If I was a residential owner in that area, I would be livid. I would be incredibly upset. You ever notice that a cop pulls over somebody in the street, or even they're going to make an arrest, or they're going to do a warrant service on a home? Does everybody gather in the street, start blowing whistles, try to disrupt their operation? No, most people in that neighborhood realize full well that those officers are there probably to take somebody bad out of their neighborhood. And there's a good purpose to that. So obviously, these officers have a broken window on that car. They were obstructing them, stopping them from doing their job, causing officer hazards and safeties, causing officer safety hazards for the officers. Sorry. So why does this stuff happen? Why are these people so emotionally deranged and unhinged? This is complete emotional incontinence right here. Okay? These people are on the street screaming and trying to obstruct ICE from arresting the worst of the worst. You people do not understand that. Of course, the majority of an audience that would watch me and agree with me, you're going to get it. And notice that nobody has ever been stopped by ICE, detained by them. Even so, even if you were, I've heard people saying, well, they've been detained by ICE. And you go, and you prove your citizenship and you walk away. But they could have detained you because they thought you were somebody illegal. Maybe you matched a description of somebody. Maybe there was a purpose while they were there and they asked you a few questions. That's happened. It's no different than being pulled over by a police car and then you're asked a few questions. You might have fit the description of something. You're sent on your way. There is no such thing as a world where you cannot be stopped by an officer on accident. It happens every day all over the United States. That will continue to happen, people. So again, get a grip and don't be so deranged thinking that cannot happen. It does.
Right now! Get back! Get back!
See this? Unbelievable. That guy right there. Okay, this is the other problem that happened. Just what we saw right there. That lunatic liberal just put his hands on the officer. That is assault and battery. For those of you out there that don't know, when you unlawfully touch somebody and it's unwanted and unwarranted, that is a battery. It's an immediate misdemeanor. Moreover, it is obstruction of justice. You've just stopped that officer in the middle of his official duties. They were arresting a person. Their focus should be on arresting that person and trying to take them into custody without incident as quickly as possible. And hopefully that the stupid person who was in the car that had to be extracted finally submits to arrest. So she doesn't incur further harm. The officers don't incur further harm. And she doesn't incur also additional charges. It's pretty simple. An officer tells you you're under arrest. I've said this before in other videos. You're required by law to comply. Failure to do so is an automatic misdemeanor charge. You understand that? So when they're obstructing these officers in the middle of the street, there lies the problem where these officers are not able to expediently do their job, take the person into custody, and leave. You have blind hysteria running all over the street. It's absolutely ridiculous. These are people with serious mental problems, and that's where wokeism and DEI and all this shit has got us. We have come to a point now where people are getting affirmation and validation of their mental disorders. Everything has come to the point of people believing somehow that they have a right to do everything they want, think how they want. That's where you get these freaking retards, these Furbies and other people out there. Saw one of those in another video. If you go back and watch my other videos, you see that. It's ridiculous, folks. You're supposed to just stay back, leave the officers alone, let them do their job. And by the way, none of you out there, none of you, even if you were a relative and that person is an adult, you have zero right to stop the officers, interfere, or demand. You have zero right to demand to know why the person's being arrested. Zero. The oversight for officers, any officer, is done by administration, supervisors in the field, judicial review, if it comes to that. And of course, if there's use of force, then it also has to do with administrative affairs. If there's an internal investigation, all of that takes place usually when there's use of force. So again, there's oversight for the officers.
I got you.
The expletives are abundant, right? Look at that one car that just drove by with its door wide open. What is that guy doing? Was he blocking the middle of the street and he's getting out of Dodge before he gets arrested? Probably so. Okay, you see that one person right there? Just got in the way of a moving vehicle. I don't know how stupid you are. It's kind of like from the age of 4 or 5, you start to learn when your parents say, move out of the way, sweetie. There's a car coming. But these people who are one IQ point above effing cabbage are stupid enough to try and impede other people. I don't even know if they know that it's ICE or just a citizen trying to get the hell out of Dodge or get somewhere they need to go. But these liberals are so unhinged. Listen to the expletives. Listen to the screaming. Listen to how deranged people are and what they're doing over ICE, over removing dangerous criminals from our country and our neighborhoods. I don't know how stupid you got to be to not want that to happen. It's insanity to me. Then they got to take somebody else. So again, see, here's an example of more stupid people that are there, that the moment one person gets arrested, even if they didn't see what led to that arrest, they believe they have a legitimate right to know and are screaming at the ICE officers. Again, that causes obstruction of justice. It's a misdemeanor because if you resist or delay an officer in his official investigations, or you cause him to be distracted from the person he was trying to take into custody, it is illegal, people. You're not allowed to do that. And you have zero right to know why the person's being arrested. That is for that person and their lawyer to determine why that happened.
What the? What are you doing?
You notice that, officer? That was still professional in the middle of all that chaos. He's giving direct, clear, loud orders. Back up, get out of the way. I believe he said, you can do whatever you want, but back up. Of course, that's taken with a grain of salt. Do whatever you want means you can sit there and continue recording us, but you're going to do it from a safe distance away from us. Then the guy yells the FU at him and the officer goes, thank you. This is the professionals that we're hiring that in the midst of this chaos, and believe me, everybody's subject to their own emotions. This guy probably is pissed off as well. He hates these people standing there. As a cop, I hate people that sit there and are non-supportive of police and don't want to help us. A lot of times as officers, it just pisses you off. You're like, what are you doing? You're not helping. You're only hindering things. You're not doing anything good, nothing productive will come of it. You're just a retard on the street causing havoc. Why? Again, because your father must have been kicked in the nuts 5 times before he impregnated your mother. Something happened to your brain. Now gas is going all over. They're trying to disperse the crowd, which it's a riot. It's not a protest.
This is what happens when you have ice in Minneapolis. They don't know how to do their job.
There you go. You ever notice that one? That's one of my other favorites. You have one complete idiot in blind hysteria. You could hear all the voice cracks screaming at the top of his lungs. This is what happens when you have ice in Minneapolis. They don't know how to do their jobs. He knows how to do it. He's got it. This guy's a pro on everybody else's job except his own. Why? Because he lives at home with mom and dad in their basement, or he's one of those paid protesters, possibly. But either way, he's an idealistic moron. And of course, he screams that ICE doesn't know how to do their job. I used to say this all the time as a cop. It cracked me up. No one will ever tell a surgeon how to perform the surgery. Nobody ever tells a construction guy how to build your home. But everyone on earth knows how to tell a cop how to do his job. Everybody is an expert. Forget the fact that most cops go through a 6-month academy. You basically get an associate's degree stuffed into 6 months. You go through a ton of training, a litany of training. Most academies are around 1,000 hours of training. And of course, then you go out into the field and you have to be trained additionally by another peace officer, a seasoned officer, before you can go solo officer patrol. And even then, most cops take 4, 5, 6 years to learn everything before they feel comfortable being alone. That's a standard in the industry of police work. But that moron that just stepped up there, that shitiot, he knows how to do the ISIS job.
They should have car because they can't see.
Okay. So this is the end of the video. I'm going to go off on a couple more things here, folks. I'm just going to pause it. It's the end of the video. It's just more chaos. I want you to understand something, that this frustrates the hell out of me because ICE are good people. They've gone through very serious backgrounds. They're police officers, or as we typically like to be referred to, even in the penal code section, for us, it's called peace officer. And I surmise that peace officer is the same standard that is used in the federal system. I haven't looked it up, but I would imagine so. They go through an immense background. Now, here's what I'm going to say that is going wrong in this world. When I was a cop, if any other officer on any other department ever needed assistance, we had what was called an AOD, which meant assist other department. Now, it's just in California. They could call it something different elsewhere in other states. All the other states have their nuances in the way that they work. But I always say this: if an officer calls me for backup for any reason, I am going. For all of you cops that stand by and do nothing, that think it's a sanctuary city or your chief has ordered you to stand down, to not help a fellow police officer is the highest dereliction of duty that I could ever imagine. You would never refuse to help a citizen that was in need. You see officers that are in a riotous situation. Uniformed armed police officers, well, always armed, of course, uniformed officers should be on scene and should be assisting those ICE agents, taking those people into custody. The guy that got pepper sprayed, the minute he's used force because the guy got too close, put his hands on him, needs to go to jail. That guy got away with it because they're overwhelmed. There is too much chaos on the street. Here's the thing. I want you folks to understand this, and every officer out there, all my brothers on other departments, I hate to say this. No chief, mayor, or city manager has the right to subjugate or set aside or abate law. Laws are written. You swear an oath to uphold the laws of your city. That means municipal codes, state, vehicle codes, and federal. Yes, federal is sometimes handled by regular police officers. I won't get into the nuances of that, but bottom line is this. If you would, as an officer, refuse to come to the call of another peace officer, no matter what their job, no matter what the job they're performing, you are a coward in my book. Sorry to say it. That is cowardice. I'm going to give you a quick example that we had a chief on our department at one point who tried to say no more towing of vehicles when illegals were unable to get licenses. Now, the law stated that if you were unlicensed or had a suspended license, that the vehicle shall be impounded for 30 days. That's a shall. Difference, quick nuances here with law. If it says may, it means officer has discretion. If it says shall, that means the officer's discretion is taken away and he will take action. It is a shall on domestic violence. That's why numerous people out there go to jail, even when somebody calls and says, I don't want him to go to jail, or the lady will say, I don't want him to go to jail. But in the moment we found out he put hands on her, he goes to jail, even at her objection. Now, no chief, city manager, mayor has the authority or legal right to subjugate or abate law and tell officers to stand down from the very thing that they swore an oath to uphold, the laws of the state and federal constitution. You upheld, you swore an oath. You are meant to come to the aid of other officers if necessary. They are executing their lawful duties and they are being overrun by riotous people in your city. I would never stand down. I would take action. Now, going back to what my chief did, he said to us one time, no more towing of the cars. I went into everybody in a police officers association meeting. I said, keep towing them. And they said, well, what do you mean? He gave a directive. And I says, you find me in the penal code where a chief has the authority to set aside law that has been enacted by the legislature in your state and tell you that you, a sworn peace officer, are no longer able to enforce that law. In fact, I read him the vehicle code and said, it shall be impounded for 30 days. He didn't want us to impound him any longer because he wanted to set a new policy that made some of the complaining citizens, a certain group, upset about towing the vehicles. You know what happens when we don't tow him? Guy goes off, he gets in the car, drives around the corner, takes off, or he waits for us to leave, walks around the block, goes back, gets his car, drives off. Now, if he hits a family and they got 3 children in that car and he kills them, guess what? That could all been avoided by a towed car. But instead, it was more about politics than it was doing the right thing. And I said, keep towing the cars. And the chief brought me into the office. And of course, he yelled at me and he said, hey, where did you get off telling all these people to keep towing the cars? Then I read him the vehicle code. I said, you're a police officer. You're the highest police officer on our department. Are you telling me you don't understand law? And of course, he had to look at that and admit, not only was he wrong, but I said, tell me where you have the authority, legal authority, to set policy above law. I know of no policy. I go, are you going to tell us tomorrow we can't arrest people for robbery? It's your new policy. They don't have the authority to do that, guys. Even when you stand by and watch riots happen, it disgusts me that officers would do that. I would take action. I would rally the troops. You would go in there. You would save property. You would not allow arsons to happen. You would not allow officers to be assaulted, have assault with a deadly weapon, cars lit on fire, property destroyed, billions of dollars, well, millions, maybe sometimes in the billions of tax dollar money being destroyed. Go in there. If all of you officers collectively get your brotherhood together and go in there and assist the other officers, I guarantee you that all of those idiots in government would have a crisis on their hands. They cannot order you to stand down when laws are being broken. That's all I have to say. Best to all of you. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent on that, but I'm sick and tired of seeing it. And I'm sick and tired of seeing not all of you officers, but the cowardice of some. Most officers, it's for every 1,000 that apply, it's one that gets hired. You're 1/10 of 1%. Then suddenly you get on the department and you become an automaton, like you're a beehive, and you got one queen telling everybody what to do. How stupid is that? You know full well laws are being broken. You enforce them. No chief, manager, city manager, or mayor can tell you to stand down. None of them. They have no authority to do so. Get a grip. I'll talk to you guys on the next one.